Hello, and welcome to a new series on my channel. This is something very different from my normal content. As you can tell, I usually tend to stay towards the gaming aspect of YouTube. However, today I felt like moving in a different direction. If you enjoy this kind of content coming from me, please let me know. And I could possibly make this a returning series, a regular series, really depending on what your guys' input is on all of this. So, that being said, I must warn you before you get into this. This is a very, very different video. This is something that will cover very, very dark topics. And if you think you cannot handle these dark topics, then I beg you to please click off and watch something else. Today's episode is on the Anthill Kids and their leader, Roch Thériault, a sadistic leader of this cult. You will hear of the crimes he committed and the horrible things that he did to his followers. That being said, let's get into this.
Roch Thériault. Roch Thériault was born on May 16, 1947, in Saguenay Valley. Not much is known of his early life. The only piece that is well known is that he dropped out of school in the 7th grade and began teaching himself the Old Testament. He believed that the end of the world was near, and it would be brought on by a war between good and evil. At a young age, Thériault converted from Catholicism to the Seventh-day Adventist Church. He indulged in the religion's rules of no tobacco, no unhealthy foods, no alcohol, or drugs. Thériault was naturally skilled in the art of manipulation and control, and his knowledge of the Bible was the perfect foundation on which to begin his own religion. While organizing seminars for the Adventists, he convinced an entire group of people to quit their jobs and form his religious following called the Anthill Kids. They were named this due to their ant-like hard work. In order to pull in followers, he veiled a spiritual persona, championing a clean lifestyle and focusing on freedom, equality, and the spirit of unity. Another way he pulled in followers was to hold detox sessions, and to perform motivational speeches for those seeking help for their addictions or self-confidence. It was around this time that people in this group began to refer to him as Moise, or Moses. The good times would not stay long, however. Soon the thin veil that Thériault was using to mask his true intentions would soon begin to slip. His hold on the group would soon begin to tighten. It first began with him ending his motivational speeches and detox sessions, and as time passed, he would order the group not to speak with one another until he was present. He held total control over the group's personal lives. They were no longer able to speak with family or friends. The Adventists kicked them out due to their behaviors and Thériault's developed drinking problem. He was forced to find a way to fund his operation. He was able to achieve this by having the group sell baked goods. Members who didn't bring in enough money were severely beaten by Thériault. If a person wished to leave the group, Thériault would torture them due to their, quote, lack of faith. He would hit them with belts or hammers, he would suspend them from the ceiling, he would pluck every hair on their body individually, or even defecate on them. He would claim that, quote, God told him what they did. Anyone who actually would attempt to escape would be forced to smash their own kneecaps with sledgehammers, or would be shot by another follower. As time passed, Thériault began to have what he called godly premonitions. They were more like delusions. In one of these premonitions, he believed the end of the world would be during 1979. Believing this, he moved the group into the wilderness of Canada, and he stationed his cult near Burnt River, Ontario. Thériault sat back as his followers began to build an entire town right by the river. They did this believing the premonition, and believing that this place would be where they would see their final days. 1979 came and passed. No apocalypse, no great war between good and evil, nothing at all. Thériault covered up this lie by claiming that, quote, our world and God's world run on different time zones. Despite this, his followers remained loyal. His female followers actually bore 28 children with Thériault, and sadly his children were not exempt from the harsh punishment that he would carry out. As a matter of fact, they may have been punished even worse than the adults. They were sexually abused, held over fires, or were nailed to trees, and were stoned by the other children. The abuse was so much that one of Thériault's wives left a newborn child outside in freezing temperatures to keep it away from the abuse. Overall, the assaults were stepped up. Thériault strongly believed in purifying his subordinates. He would rid them of their sins through purification sessions, where the members would be forced to be completely nude as he whipped and beat them, while claiming to be a holy being. Thériault demonstrated his healing powers through surgeries performed on sick members. He would sometimes even inject 94% ethanol solution, or alcohol, into the followers' stomachs, or perform circumcisions on the children and adults of the group. He would forcibly remove teeth and nails. He would cut off arms and legs without warning. Nothing was too cruel of a punishment for him. The pinnacle of this monster came in September of 1988, when one of his wives, Solange Bolliard, complained of abdomen pain. Thériault forced her to undress and lay on the table. He punched her in the stomach repeatedly and began to perform a crude enema by forcing a tube in her rectum and filling her with olive oil. He cut her abdomen open using a kitchen knife and ripped out some of her intestines using his bare hands. He then shoved a tube down her throat and ordered the other members to blow into said tube. The next day, Bolliard was found dead. Thériault then claimed he had a way to resurrect her. This resurrection consisted of drilling a hole in the woman's skull and having every male member ejaculate into it. This was not the only murder to this monster's name. In fact, he held 2 more to his name. They consisted of 2 of his own children, one of which he murdered during a failed circumcision, and the other died when he left him out in the middle of a blizzard as a form of punishment. It took the near-death experience of Gabrielle Lavallée to bring to light all of these horrible crimes against humanity. Gabrielle had endured blowtorches to her genitals, 8 of her teeth taken out, a hypodermic needle breaking off in her spine, and she had tried to escape, but she could not live without the cult and went back. Roch took this as a good reason to cut off one of her fingers, nail her hand to a table, and amputate her entire arm. With a hunting knife, of course. Gabrielle did not see this as enough reason to actually leave, and it actually took Roch amputating parts of her breast and smashing her head in with an axe to actually flee and contact the authorities. The cult was shut down in 1989 when Thériault was arrested and given a life sentence. February 26, 2011, Dorchester Penitentiary. Thériault was found dead near his cell. He was 63 years old. His death was believed to be the result of an altercation between him and a cellmate, Matthew Gerard MacDonald, age 60, who killed Thériault and has been charged with the killing. MacDonald pleaded guilty to the second-degree murder and was sentenced to life in prison. However, he had already been serving a life sentence due to a previous murder charge. MacDonald stabbed Thériault in the neck with a homemade knife. Afterwards, he walked down to the guard station and handed them the knife and proclaimed, quote, "That piece of shit is down on the range. Here's the knife. I've sliced him up." Roch Thériault, a lying, sadistic drunk. One that took advantage of others and exploited their weaknesses for his own psychopathic gain. In the aftermath of what took place at Burnt River, his followers were evaluated by psychiatrists to be evaluated on their sanity. The scariest part of it all? Every person there was declared to be mentally sane.